welcome to the second episode of the Big Milkshake Podcast. My name is Bianca, and we are joined by the rest of the team. We have Alex, Seb, and Nathan. Hey guys, how are we doing?
Very good.
Hello there.
How was
How are you
everyone's week? I'm good, thank you. What's everyone been up to? Keeping busy?
Playing Sea of Thieves with you.
Hey.
Yes. That was very good, actually. No, that was really fun. I hadn't played Sea of Thieves with you guys before until last night, and I heard you guys were really big fans of the game, and I didn't realize how big of a fan you guys were. You guys were using all these terms when you were sailing, and I was like, oh. Oh no, I'm really out of my depth here. But we finished up with a lot of loot.
Yeah, we did.
I got
Surprisingly, actually.
I don't know how we made it out alive by the end of it.
That was worth it, though.
I'm very proud of
fun.
us. That was very good. I think everyone else should watch us play some games.
A coordinated team effort.
I was just enjoying the voting for us to risk it all. Just keep going.
Oh, yes. We did have the Twitch chat determine whether we were going to sell the current loot that we had or whether we were going to go and venture out for more. And the chat was felt very risky, I think, last night. But hey, we came out of it okay. So I'm pretty proud of us. I'm pretty proud of us.
Made the right call.
I think so. I think so. Well, welcome to anyone who is tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the first episode. We had so much fun putting that together, and here we are for a second one. We have so much to talk about today in terms of Kingless, and more particularly the world of Kingless and the artwork. And I guess there's no better way to start talking about Kingless than to just talk about some of our favorite cards. I think that's a good place to start. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
There are so many good cards to pick from, not just like character and item wise, but even artwork wise as well. Alex, let's start with you. Who or what is your favorite card from the game?
Well, my favourite card is Neef Gold Dreamer. You'll find him not only in the deck, but also on the box of Kingless itself. So Neef is a typical dwarf in that he has a deep, unwavering affection for gold. Unlike other dwarves, however, he has some unconventional ideas about how to get it. Alchemy, the combined dream of science and magic that turns common base metals into precious gold, has long been Neef's obsession. His most outstanding achievement was to successfully transmute gold into lead. This was much to the anger of the other dwarves because despite this breakthrough for alchemical science, he hasn't quite figured out how to turn it back. Given his devotion to his work and his damning record of transmutation, he's kept at arm's length from the tip jar of the hammer and crown at all times. Which ties back on into his role with the actual game there. He's a terrible alchemist as far as he can't actually convert anything into gold, just the other way.
Just the opposite way around.
Keep him away from those coins.
Hence why he gutters the tip jar. Yep.
Yeah, just trying the best. Is what I'm hearing there.
He's practicing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Give him a break. A bit of research. They dig it out of the ground anyway. He's my favourite because he's got all these fantastic colours and lights in the art of his card. He's got such an evocative outfit on him. You can tell that he's clearly up to something mystical and different. Whereas a lot of the other dwarves are very focused on manual, mundane tasks. You don't quite know what Neef is going to be up to. He's got all these fantastic, little bottles full of chemicals, each emitting their own light and smoke. And there's clearly a lot going on there.
And was Neef inspired by anything in particular, or was it just something like? I mean, again, I know we mentioned this in the first episode, but we've got such a big variety of characters to kind of pick from. Like, do you remember Neef coming together, or does anyone else remember Neef coming together at all?
I think that's the great thing about the Hammer and Crown and the patrons of the Hammer and Crown. You know, everyone who turns up there, they're all a little bit different, a little bit quirky. And I think we knew from the very beginning, we've got to have a wizard in here somewhere. You know, there's got to be that character. And Neef's got some really interesting background and some lore around him as well.
I was going to say as well, what's Neef's use for anyone who's tuning in, maybe hasn't played Kingless before on this card? What does Neef's card do?
Neef?
Putting me on the spot. I think he gutters the tip jar. Yeah. I'm
Nice.
happy I got that.
Put him to the test.
You did,
No, I
yeah.
put you on a spot there.
Kind of helped design the game. Maybe should remember
Oh, just
that.
a little bit. Just a little bit. Nathan, what about you?
Ooh, I'm going to start with an honourable mention for Stumpy. Just love that card and the were-beaver. Oh, not giant beaver. But,
I was going to say last time you said Stumpy was one of your favourites.
But he's just been pipped today by Theralona the Just. I mean, just magnificent on that horse. I'm pretty sure the horse was named Charger. Just both of them together. Just a really crisp, bright card set outside. Yeah, I think that's my favourite artwork piece anyway.
Theralina actively works for the good of all in Overstone, and isn't afraid of conflict when necessary. She's one of a handful of dwarves that are competent riders, as most of her kin prefer to trudge alongside a beast than sit astride one. Part of her good work is hounding Ulf Pocket Delver and ensuring he doesn't cause too much trouble, although this is as much for his benefit as the town. Now, Ulf is another one of our cards, which you might not be surprised given his name, is a pickpocket and a bit of a thief. Theralina's card gutters Ulf, moving him from play.
It's one of those cards that, well, one of the few cards actually that is set outside of the Hammer and Crown. So most of them take place within. I mean, there's a handful that don't, but it's probably one of the brightest cards we have in the game as well. It's kind of, the open, airy look and feel about it. And I quite like that, a bit of change of pace, something a little bit different. We can see some more of the Kingless universe that it's within, or actually Overstone to be more precise, which is the town that Kingless sits within.
Yeah, I'd love to chat more about Overstone or what you guys could tell us about Overstone soon as well. And I guess, I think what's really cool about these cards, you just get a little sneak peek into, what's out there beyond, the Hammer and Crown and stuff as well, which is really, really cool. And I agree, it's one of the brightest cards out there. It's a nice little change of scenery, I think. Now, I actually forgot to ask you, Nathan, what is the use of Theralona's card? So we'll come back to you in a minute, but I knew I forgot to ask you something.
So she gutters Ulf Pocket Delver, so a little bit of a sketchy pickpocket card. So she's obviously just keeping an eye out, and if she sees him in action, she'll put him outside into the gutter. So
she looks quite intimidating. I'd be a bit scared of her.
Yeah. just strong and majestic.
What about you, Seb? Favorite card?
It has to be Clem Ponswell. I mean, I mentioned this on the first episode, but come on, it was the first card we ever created. I had a lot of creative input into this card. Don't roll your eyes at me. Look at it. Look at the detail. It's just such a fantastic card.
If anyone missed the first episode, some of the characters in Kingless were loosely inspired by some of you guys, and Clem is yours. Yes.
Yeah, but let's not move away from the fact that this was still the first card we've ever created. I'm kind of clutch at everything I can here, but
tell us a little bit more about the card, and if you could tell us what Clem does as well.
I'll leave that up to Alex. Alex can talk a little bit about the lore of some of these cards.
Absolutely. So we can get started with Clem Ponswell claims the Golden Tankard. Now, as for the lore for him, Clem is known for his vanity and a love of the finer things in life. Any trader passing through is stopped and asked about the latest fashions and has their wares carefully examined before Clem haggles away any semblance of profit they once had. This silver-tongued skill at negotiation has him responsible for selling dwarven wares to travelling traders. His greed can lead him astray, however, and while he's not a thief and would never steal, he is often found admiring the Hammer and Crown's prize ornament, the Golden Tankard. Sometimes even going as far as to try and take it home with him to better admire it. Now, he sees this as perfectly reasonable, and after all, he'll return it when he's done. But Bron Lawbringer sees things differently, and is swift to make Clem clear his head with a trip outside, while the tankard stays safely put.
Very greedy.
This is the sort of thing, that we lean into with the card. So obviously the mechanic of Clem Ponswell, as Alex said, is to claim the Golden Tankard. But there's a few of these characters that interplay with each other and sort of also play into the lore. So, it's quite thematic around the actual mechanic of the card.
Yeah, I think it's really cool as well. I know, Alex, you mentioned Bron Lawbringer.
Bron is another of our favourite cards.
Because I was going to say, Bron has an effect on Clem. Is that right?
Yes.
I could be wrong.
Yes.
Bron moves Clem Ponswell to the gutter, removing him from play.
Keeping an eye on him from taking the tankard, which is exactly what you said as well. I think that's really fantastic that bit of lore that you have fits directly with the effects of the cards. I think those little details really, really shine. And I'm really looking forward to at some point us sharing a bit more of the lore side of things on our channels and stuff like that too, because I'm sure a lot of people out there wouldn't even think to know there was a bit of backstory with Bron and Clem. Rather than them just being two characters, they actually have some sort of lack of a better word, relationship, clash of personalities maybe there.
I definitely see
that's
it
wicked.
that Bron's just keeping Clem in check, much like the people they were designed after.
Yeah.
And of course, you would have to be talking about yourself there, Nathan, as you are.
Unfortunately, we're quite competitive. Yes.
Yeah, you are the Bron Lawbringer of that as well. I have to mention, I didn't actually make the connection between the Bron effect on Clem, and I went, "Oh, that's Nathan Seb," and I had a little laugh to myself. And Seb's like, where did this come from? You made this connection so randomly, like during the week. And I was like, oh no, I was just looking at the cards, and I just have this newfound, I guess, knowledge of all this kind of backstory and little trivia and Easter eggs. It's just made that experience so much more fun. Yeah. I think it's really cool.
One of my favourite interactions in the game.
Bianca, what about yours? What's your number one card?
Well, when I think of times where I've played a lot with my family, and as soon as I see this card in my hand, I'm like, yes. I was like, I've really got them now, and I must ask you all more about this character. It's Ragstead Iron Pumper, and I believe the effect is that they're immune to being gutted, which is pretty big.
Yeah,
and the influence on this card's pretty high as well.
Highest in the game.
I was going to say, that's the reason I like it. I'm quite greedy and I love to win. So as soon as I have this character, I am so, I consider that I've won, but I know that's not the case.
So what's your strategy? When you draw or you have Ragstead in your hand, do you play him straight away? Do you wait? Do you hold, wait till the end game?
It depends how confident I'm feeling, if I'm going to be really honest. If I'm feeling really arrogant, maybe I'll leave him right to the end, and then then no one can do anything about it. But I think when I first started playing, I was like, I would want to put him down immediately. But even though that Ragstad's immune to guttering, it doesn't mean he can't be taken in another ways.
Exactly.
And then once I kind of caught on to that, I was like, well, this is a really high risk, high reward kind of play, because it's so easily someone else could take it from you. Alex, I would really love to hear a little bit more about Ragstad, and then I do have a question, something that I actually picked up in the artwork, which I want to ask you about something.
I think I know the detail you're talking about, and I was going to ask if you'd spotted it. Ragstad Iron Pumper. The strongest of the dwarves, Ragstad is a peerless warrior whose prowess has made him something of a local legend. He does, however, have one eccentricity. The other dwarves have been slow to accept. Ragstad engages in a bizarre daily ritual of lifting heavy things and putting them back down in the exact same spot. The dwarves do their best to humour his madness, but their eyes just glaze over as he talks about how he's going to beat his personal record.
Well, I have to ask now. He's got a tattoo on his right arm that says Mum on it. That's the one I was talking about. That is it,
yeah. I do wonder how many people who play Ragstad actually pick that up, because it is hidden there amongst the mess of his other tattoos. I say a mess. They're cool lads. We really wanted to have that in there, just to show he's got a bit of a softer side. He's a huge giant dwarf warrior with an axe, but he's not all business.
Yeah, I think he's really interesting. The whole design of Ragstad, I think, is really cool. I guess it's always, I've been curious to know how he kind of fits in, and there's a bit more to him than maybe I thought there was. It wasn't until I was looking at the card again today I went, hey, I didn't recognize that part of his tattoo before.
It's hard to pick up on the actual card. There's so many different strategies that you can play with Ragstad, and as 219's head gameplay strategist, you know, I tend to just play him whenever I feel like it, to be honest, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's
Sass,
the best
drop
play.
him on turn 1. Boom!
Look, I've been known to do that. I'm so dying to talk about this, but we can't share it at the moment. But
yeah.
in the upcoming expansion, the Festival of Explosions, we've got some really cool mechanics that will make Ragstad a little bit more immovable, perhaps we should say. There's some fun things coming up, but he is definitely one of those cards that as soon as you see it go down on the table, you want to get rid of it.
Yep.
Or you want to claim it. You want it on your side.
He is so susceptible to being bribed by chicken. He just straight over to whoever has the most chicken, and he's in their play area. He's definitely the most claimed card in the game.
Nathan, I have to ask as well, what do you think is the best strategy in terms of playing a character like Ragstad?
I would almost always play it in the last 2 turns. I'd be either setting up to use it to trigger the end game, or use it in my end game turn, just to try and minimise him getting claimed away. That is, of course, if you don't have the keg. If you got the keg, you're pretty well set up, because that stops your play area getting claimed. So that's why they're a bit of an iconic duo, which I think we've put a little post out before. Yeah. So
that's
why you always keep chicken in your pocket.
Yeah, but that he loves it. Or a good brew, you know. He doesn't really differentiate.
It does keep you on your toes as well. If you know that he's out there, or rather you don't know where he is. He could be in the deck, he could be in someone's hand.
Yeah.
If someone can bring another 10 points out right at the end of the game, you know, it can really change all your plans.
It's literally game changing.
Yeah.
I think what I really love about the characters as well, because a really big part of obviously these characters and these cards is the artwork. I think is absolutely gorgeous. Does someone want to tell us a little bit more about the wonderful artist behind these characters and how kind of that process to find the artist that suited your game kind of worked out?
When we started with Kingless, artwork wasn't necessarily, the art style actually wasn't necessarily something that we particularly had in mind. We were designing the characters, and we had a very workable version of Kingless long before we had any artwork, and, you know, playing with basic cards with text scribbled on it for quite a long time. And then when we got around to the stage where we sort of knew the style that we were going to take the characters, we did a lot of workshopping around, you know, the lore that Alex has gone through earlier on, which characters play into others, how they sit themselves in the world. Yeah, we went out looking for a different artist that would sort of not necessarily fit the style we want, because we didn't know, but would be able to replicate the ideas that we have in a way that presents the characters really well. We went through lots of different styles and different artists with, you know, each presented their own unique take on how these characters could look. And we eventually settled on Anastas, who put together, I think, again, Clem Ponswell, the very first character we did, but this was our sort of test piece to find the art style. I mean, we had a handful that we did originally. Yeah, this was to try and, you know, work out the style that we want to take the whole of Kingless in. And, you know, the expansions going forward, that's still being done by Anastas.
What I wanted to ask as well, does Anastas have a portfolio or anywhere she showcases her artwork at all, or?
Yeah, you can find her, if you look for Anastasia Molina on ArtStation, you see some of her work and some of the other projects she's worked on, which really just goes to showcase her wonderful talents there as well. Some pieces from Kingless do appear up on there. Yeah, some really fantastic pieces on there.
Yeah, I'd love to link that in the podcast and transcript somewhere or in a description of this video, just so you guys can see just how wonderful and talented they are. And I have to make mention as well, Seb, behind you, you've got framed actually a few of the artwork pieces from the cards in your office.
Yeah,
is that right?
I can't quite see it, unfortunately. But yes, that is actually our three dwarfs. So that's Clem, Egrunt, and Bron, and then the Kingless logo just up there.
That's brilliant. That's so good.
The original 3.
The OG 3. For
Exactly.
sure. There's no better way to do it, I don't think. What was, I guess, for people who are building their own tabletop game and things like that, like you guys did when you did Kingless, you said that obviously art wasn't the first thing that came to mind. Was there anything design-wise or something that you learnt in the process of finding Anastas that you think might prove to be helpful to any other creators or anything out there, or any advice you might have for those looking to take the game to that next level?
I'd say it'd be important to keep an open mind as well, and be willing to work with what your artist gives you. Not in the sense that they're giving you something you didn't ask for, but if they have if they take what you've told them in maybe a slightly different direction, but it really just sort of flows forward and on from your idea in a positive way, engage with that and feed into that as well, because the creative talent of some of the people you'll meet and work with along the way is phenomenal. You've got to stay flexible in the art style, and just to really bring your idea to where to its best and fullest form. You've got to keep an open mind.
This is so fresh at the moment because in literally a couple of hours before we were recording this podcast, we were reviewing and working on some new sketches for the Festival of Explosions that Anastas has just sent through to us. So we are deep within this process once again right now, and it's just amazing every time we're working on things, and the creativity that comes back and forth between us and Anastas, and it's so much fun.
That has to be. I can't imagine how it would have felt when you got that first piece of artwork back, or seeing that card in its full form for the first time. Like, Nathan, do you remember the first time seeing the cards? Like, what was that like? Was that a little bit surreal, or? Yeah,
it was, because obviously we're getting our own ones back, so it was just great to get those first sketches and like, oh, it's happening. This is really cool. I know we had as we said, it was still a lot of to and fro. I know my card, I think probably mine more so, had quite a lot of changes from that first sketch.
Yours changed a lot, yeah.
But I mean, the first sketch was still pretty cool. I had a mohawk.
Wow, awesome. That's really cool.
I could pull it off. I got this. This is fine.
Getting artwork back was amazing because we'd played so much Kingless, and we played with so many different people, as we were testing and building the game, just with these, basic just white sheets of paper or bits of card that we had meticulously cut and punched each corner off to round the corners just to make it a little bit nicer when we're playing. And in these early prototype builds, yes, being able to stick artwork on, and I think we did a new print. Every time we got a new bit of artwork, we put like a new print on and just play, and we had one sketch or one finished image. And as it sort of came together every time we played a game, it would sort of evolve a little bit. So we were still tweaking all sorts of things like mechanics and everything as we were injecting this artwork in the very late stages.
I was going to say as well, just curious to know what the process was for, I guess, people looking for artists and stuff for their own game. How did you come to find Anastas? Was it just through your own research, like tabletop specifically, or just artists in general? But for anyone that might be starting in that process, what was that like?
Yeah, look, there's so many extremely talented people out there, and like I said, everyone has their own unique style, so it's sort of finding the style that you want to go with. We use, like, Twitter's a fantastic place to find artists and people sharing their work, as well as ArtStation and similar sites to that. I think we just stumbled across Anastas. It was just by sort of luck that we managed to find her and make contact and start talking. And she absolutely had done other games before as well. She'd worked on projects of similar scope, I guess. For us, it was just a case of we wanted to secure the artwork and, make sure that we had all of that right. And then we worked with a graphic designer to put it all together properly and go to print and make sure we had everything ready, because that's a completely different ball game to just producing, sticking some artwork on a page. There's a lot of layout and things that you need to do to get to that final stage.
Yeah, it's just one big collaborative process across many different streams. I think you don't really think about those things until you're actually doing it yourself, and you're like, okay, this is on this kind of scale. Like, this is a lot that we need to kind of go through together, and I think what Alex was saying about being open to collaboration and going back and forth and stuff is just so important.
And I tell you what, we did not know the scope of what was going to be required of us as we were doing it. Things just grew and grew and grew. Yeah, looking back over the whole project of Kingless, if we had known that now, I don't know whether we would have continued on knowing what we'd have to do. But
well, I do want to talk a little bit more. We've talked about the characters from the game, but I want to talk more about Overstone. Alex, talk to us a little bit more about Overstone, because I know the name for the world that Kingless came into is only something that happened somewhat recently. To me it feels like recently, but it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't tremendously long ago. Time shoots past so quickly, though. So the game is centered around the Hammer and Crown Inn, but not every character is inside the inn, and each character that appears in the game obviously has their own life and their own things going on. There's Stron, Iron Striker, the blacksmith. So they live in a village or a town that has a smithy as well as a tavern. Boom, Overstone grows by another building. So Overstone existed as an idea long before we named it. Frankly, as soon as we had the Hammer and Crown, we had Overstone in effect, because we filled it with characters and people and things, and every one of them really just commanded more and more space in our minds as to what would they do all day, what's their job, what's their role. So that really grew a little community around the Hammer and Crown, which you can just catch glimpses of in the game.
It's a wonderful, and I know touched on this and how much I adored it as well in our first episode about the fantasy setting it's set in. And I know Nathan's talked about giant beaver. There's a unicow. Have I missed something here?
The unicow appeared as part of the Kickstarter, but hasn't appeared in the game yet.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yet.
Yes.
That's
key.
important. Everyone's seen the giant beaver chasing Stumpy, but the unicow, it's like a unicorn, but it's a Highland cow. So it's an adorable little picture of it with a singular horn pointing upwards. And we wanted to have a sort of a fun, vibrant fantasy setting. So things like that really just felt second nature to the setting. Giant animals, different animals, some familiar, some won't be.
So there's no limit to what kind of possibilities in terms of creatures and...
No, and hopefully we'll be able to share more and more of them with people as we go on.
I think Kingless grew out of the Hammer and Crown pretty quickly. The first few characters we had done, they were inside the Hammer and Crown. And then as we started expanding, we've got the winery, the vineyard, and other things that are happening outside. It's started to expand beyond just being inside the tavern, and that's when Overstone started to populate, and we're going to see a lot more of Overstone and beyond in the future as well, with other things that we have planned. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun building out the world beyond the Hammer and Crown.
I think it just seems to grow like quite naturally, and obviously the way in which you've created these characters as well, and the relationships like you have like between one another and the lore and stuff, it's just naturally kind of flowed outside that one kind of interior space that the game's set in. And again, I know there's things we can't say yet, but there are some awesome things I think we'll learn about Overstone. And
it was too hard to keep them inside those four walls.
Yeah,
there's just too much. There's too many. I mean, we didn't actually mention it, but the giant beaver he actually has a name. He's called Benedict.
Oh, really?
And he just can't fit inside. And some of those cards, we've got the giant sort of like peering in through the window and things like that. All characters that we have yet to see more of.
To be continued.
Yes, as
Stay
ominously
tuned
as possible.
for more of that.
Haven't even mentioned the orcs.
Yeah, true.
I know that if I would love to know, to anyone who is tuning in to the show as well, if you guys have any favorite cards, please share them with us. Tell us why you love that card so much, and maybe we'll even mention them in the next episode.
And we can talk about some of the lore as well.
If there's any other
behind
characters,
those cards.
If there's any other characters you guys want to know a little bit more about, even I don't know, maybe something about some of the item cards as well. Might have some interesting trivia behind them. So if anyone wants to ask us about any of those characters or share their favorite cards, definitely get in touch with us. Seb, if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about what we have planned, any like kind of sneak peeks, little snippets, maybe some exclusive content, is there anywhere else people could find us?
Oh, well, there certainly is. So we're actually in the process of starting a Patreon, a 219 Patreon. And this is where we'll be sharing a lot more of the behind the scenes. We're going to start sharing some of the sketches that we've alluded to a little bit earlier on, some of the artwork for a Festival of Explosions coming later in the year. We'll also have a pre-show that we recorded before this show, actually. If you would like to tune in and listen to us talking about chocolate, that is a sneaky little behind the scenes for you. We've got lots more content coming. We're going to start sharing as much as we possibly can and being able to provide you with as much behind the scenes. Early playtests as well is something that we want to get people involved with. So Patreon members will be able to play some rounds of Kingless with us, with the team, but also be able to jump in on some of the early builds of the Festival of Explosions and help us test and refine that before we finally share with the world.
They'll be able to quite literally beat us at our own game.
Yeah, maybe. That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
So I would say as well, that's a good place to have a bit of a chat with us as well. We don't have to be as secretive about certain things about the expansion. You can come get excited with us as well. So we will link to that as soon as it goes officially live. And if it's not up by this episode, just stay up to date on our social media channels. If you would like to find more about 219 and more about Kingless and stay up to date, we are essentially, I feel like we've covered almost every social media channel now. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok. Have I missed any?
I have started
Discord.
yelling facts about
Discord.
Kingless down
Board
dark
game?
alleyways.
Oh, alleyways? Your closest.
So linger on the streets of Hobart, and you might hear something.
Yes, Board Game Geek. I
Shark
heard you
facts?
say that, Nathan. So
Give us a
Oh,
review.
Board
Alex
Game
loves
Geek?
shark facts.
Shark facts.
Sorry, that was really. I'll cut that out.
Little throwback to the
Go and
stream.
watch Sea of Thieves. Go and watch the
Yeah,
Sea
go
of
on the
Thieves stream
stream.
from
Yes,
yesterday.
actually.
Find out about
Learn
shark
what
facts.
sharks are
Maybe
older than.
Maybe if you guys want to see us get up to mischief on not tabletop related topics, maybe I can put together a little video of our Sea of Thieves playthrough yesterday. That was quite fun. Maybe. Anyway, I feel like I've said enough and I've kept you guys long enough as well. Thank you so much for our second episode of the Big Milkshake podcast series. And you can find all our Big Milkshake updates at thebigmilkshake.co.
Is
Bye.
Bye.
ciao.